Believe it or not, Fortnite Battle Royale was never intended to actually happen, let alone be as big as the heights it's come to today in terms of popularity, and despite it not being in its peak over the last duration of 4 years of which it's existed through, I bet a lot of you didn't know that it was originally intended to be made as a PvE only game, being just Save the World the paid version. Of course, because of this, people expected the story to be portrayed throughout only this paid version of the game and no attention to be predominantly paid to Battle Royale or this take Fortnite to its viral state. However, anyways, enough about Save the World. You've clicked today's video to learn about the entire Fortnite storyline since it began in Chapter 1 Season 3, up until the very present, where we're on the verge due to knowing from data miners that Chapter 3 is on the horizon, and we're going to be explaining at the end how we're going to be getting there. But before we do dive into it all, please take 2 seconds if you want to support me in the item shop to enter code FM1. It literally is 3 digits long, and I guarantee there's not many codes shorter than this. It would not only put a giant smile on my face, but my pug Gus too, who's been kinda sad as of lately from discovering that also 70% of all eyes on screen right now aren't subscribed. And of course, it's a no-brainer to learn everything or digest all the story. It's vital that you stick around until the end of today's video, so without any further ado, sit back, relax, grab your favourite snacks, and allow me to simplistically break down in the most simplified way possible the Fortnite timeline or storyline leading up until the present Chapter 2 Season 8 and verge start of the brand new chapter being Fortnite Chapter 3. So from rewinding the clock, yes of course Fortnite had a pre-season state before Season 1 started of Chapter 1, which not even many people played when that released. Season 1 was when the first Fortnite mares occurred, and we had a season shop with skins like the Renegade Raider in, which today sell for literally thousands of dollars on external websites. And despite nothing happening lore related anyways in Chapter 1 Season 1 or Chapter 1 Season 2, where players initially started speculating there was more to Battle Royale than just literally getting that Victory Royale in-game was at the end of Chapter 1 Season 3. This was around the time of the comet appearing in the sky, and then furthermore toward the ending of Season 3 in itself of Chapter 1, this then became an environmental factor, with this literally affecting gameplay flow considering they were crashing down from the sky, and not only that, damaging players if near enough and also destroying debris or buildings. This of course explained the arrival of meteors on the island initially, expected anyways from the lookout points, kinda teasing this through either boards or posters that were small map changes updated into the game in the final days of Season 3, but it didn't exactly tell us a lot about perhaps what was even bigger set to hit the island. This of course was only until May 1st 2018 when we initially got revealed to not only the Season 4 trailer and seeing the biggest meteor, the comet in the sky previously, smash or wipe out Dusty Depot, entirely making it into the once was crater Dusty Divot. Believe it or not too, this was not the only map change to occur or meteor to actually crash land on our Fortnite island that initially was perhaps the biggest event way back then considering nothing previous had happened. However, with it being in the middle of the map or the biggest chunk taken out of it from a meteor crashing down, players especially with the government obviously erecting an entire named location or kind of base around what did crash, attracted the attention of not only normal players trying to loot this area, but theorists too thinking perhaps something was bigger afoot. As this glowing meteor that was obviously studied by the inhabitants of the Fortnite island who had surrounded it very quickly after immediately crash landing and creating the giant crater, we soon discovered as to why this was, despite the other crash landing sites having hop rocks alongside Dusty Divot of which we could consume and then literally jump around the map in slow motion, so it seemed. With the arrival of Week 7 or the first unlockable date of which we could get the first secret skin in Fortnite Battle Royale codenamed Blockbuster, this turned out to be the Visitor, the first member of the 7 to visit our Chapter 1 island from inside the meteor crash landing in a smaller capsule that got revealed obviously as a map change. At first people didn't think too much of this character despite it being another incentive to get the battle pass and complete all the sets of weekly challenges Blockbuster ones attached to him, of which the most annoying one was to search chests at risky reels. Are you guys OG enough to remember this? Let me know down below in the comments. Little did we know that not only did he have a future involvement in this season for the first ever gaming live event that was to literally shake up gaming forever, let alone Fortnite Battle Royale, but also of course this character played a large force or forefront in the ending of this chapter, let alone this season, with loading screens revealing secrets about the future of the Visitor or what he was doing visiting the Fortnite island in the first place, or a potential plan or what side he was on being good or evil out of what was established between Carbide and Omega. It was only a matter of time before what this loading screen in particular portrayed came true, with him launching the rocket in the first ever Blast Off Live event previously mentioned, which was something Fortnite did and haven't looked back on since to this day, being, yeah, a live event. From this initially occurring with the random movements of the rocket going through dimensions and then appearing back at random points on the island or above it through these interdimensional portals that we now know as rifts, and with it leaving one giant crack in the sky upon it fulfilling its purpose, I guess, we were confused as to, well, what was next. This confusion never lasted long, however, considering it was only a few days, if not a week, when things started to get very strange on the Fortnite island in terms of not only random objects appearing around the map as map changes in general, but this also happening live for instance what was at Moisty Mire being a dinosaur skeleton, and also below what we once knew as the Viking village, a giant anchor. We kinda got a gist of the theme of the next season way back then, however we thought it was only going to be one thing or one dimension pulled into the Fortnite world, but then we got introduced to Season 5 Worlds Collide. This shook up the Fortnite reality more than people initially expected, with it bringing in real life things that had been teased to obviously hype up this season that people or YouTubers had visited. Basically all the map changes that came through the crack in the sky or as a result of that crack in the sky occurring, in the places of which they initially appeared in, they resembled the theme of that particular area or named location or POI. For instance, the anchor resembled Viking village with a giant Viking ship above it on top of this mountain, and yeah, the dinosaur bones at Moisty Mire, these obviously resembled these dinosaur statues appearing in Paradise Palms in this desert area. The world was literally Epic Games' oyster, so to speak, because they could literally go any direction at this point. However, they played it in probably one of the best ways imaginable in terms of surprising literally the entire community of what happened next. As you guys know, one lightning strike was bigger than them all, however, and spawned in this mysterious cube, of which content creators I believe were warned about of Epic Games, considering Ninja was streaming at the time, and there was no way he conveniently captured such a good view of this. Either way, with this giant random cube spawning in, players flocked to it, wondered what it was for, whether it was just going to be an event to last a few days, and despite it being used as a giant trampoline or to eliminate even other players in its earliest days, it then started to move around the Fortnite island, with players starting to predict its movement too. From hour to hour or day to day, with it crossing the terrain of the Fortnite island, it made its way inadvertently imprinting runes in the ground that later play a part in Season 6, all the way to Loot Lake, of where it initially sat and sank in as the Season 5 live event. After this happening, of course, this then made Loot Lake perhaps something fun for players to go over to instead of something they dreaded crossing to get killed in the center island, which means if it wasn't already obvious, until the end of Season 5 it was one giant bounce pad. But what happened next was very unexpected, as we thought Kevin was gone for good. We also never really knew why Kevin visited this Fortnite reality of Chapter 1, however we do know that now from basically what's happening in Chapter 2 or how it was made possible. But with the release of Chapter 1 Season 6 Darkness Rises, to our surprise, shown for the first time in the Chapter 1 Season 6 trailer cinematic itself, we saw Kevin the Cube not only fully intact but hoist in the center of the island at Loot Lake, which was very annoying to get to and actually survive without no builds. Not only be hoist in the air above Loot Lake, creating this sinkhole in itself for where it once stood this particular kind of house, but as the days passed, despite this tornado allowing us to fly up to it and land on it and even loot it as a location in-game, making it more diverse with this type of terrain, or even sky-based so it seems, it eventually made its way around, obviously powering itself up furthermore or juicing the cube in terms of it infesting this floating island more so by the day or growing out of it. From the weeks passing and the cube or floating island in itself gravitating toward all of these ruined spaces, upon meeting the last one, it was not only met with more charge than previously from going around the initial ruins themselves, but they were all yanked out of the ground and were now floating around the island too once it powered into its final form. And based off the fact at this time that the two prior seasons contained live events, whether it was the cube sinking into Loot Lake or the rocket, we expected something in these moments to happen with the cube or floating island itself, or the runes even floating around it still. But with more hotfixes or map changes being implemented, maybe even downtime updates, the cube runes themselves, or what was yanked out of the ground, went back to their initial spots of where they were imprinted in initially from the cube rolling around the map on the floor. And this charge, or what we once thought was entirely lore related, actually was initiating Fortnitemares, or bringing the Fortnitemareish feel, or should I say fiends or husks, into the world. With people thinking this was the end of the cube or it served its purpose, we were far from wrong with the live event that was about to occur, but at the time, from using all of its energy to actually spawn the husks in on the Fortnite Chapter 1 island, it broke away from its initial structure that it hoisted up into the sky, making this not only a floating island, but floating rocks or islands. With each day passing, with the cube light going out more so as the energy seemed to drain down, kind of like sand going down in an hourglass, with what finally seemed to be its final drip of life going into the sinkhole, or what was below Loot Lake anyways in terms of this void. Despite being warned of Epic Games there was going to be a live event, we definitely knew something big was about to go down, but we didn't expect what was about to happen, with not only the cube dripping its final kind of form of energy into the sinkhole, but then regaining it a substantial amount all at once, causing it to explode, transporting us to an in-between dimension-like state for the very first time of where we initially met the butterfly. It's arguable that this is the vault from the Unvaulting event in Chapter 1 Season 8, but we're still yet to get onto that. And despite the butterfly finding all the Fortnite characters within this particular in-between realm, escorting us back to the normal island of where a pretty scenery could be seen at the once was sinkhole location, and to commemorate that furthermore that it was friendly and nothing dark or sinister was going down more, a rainbow could be seen beaming across this section of the sky. Players on the Fortnite island at this point thought all was good, but with us approaching the end of a season with the live advent only building up what was yet to happen, we couldn't have been more wrong. Despite the Stonehenge-like memorial of Kevin forming from the shards that broke off him once exploding in this particular loot later location, even with the map change of a rainbow above it, this didn't stop players from obviously swaying their attention to what's happening next, which seemed to be approaching fast from one of the outskirt ends of the Fortnite island, being this snowy fog cloud. To be more specific, this was in the Flush Factory region of the island, on the outskirts of it anyways, where also a strange map change could be seen, being this flag with a strange logo on it correlating to the secret skin called AIM of Chapter 1 Season 6, codename Hunting Party, before he was revealed in terms of his identity. Despite the logo matching up to the satellite system from Save the World, and us knowing that this was a big weather change incoming, not just because of this actually approaching the island more so on the outskirts, but from glitches and clever people in the community managing to not only glitch out to this location in-game but in replay mode, we saw a giant iceberg with what seemed to be a castle kind of growing out of it, or once was there but got covered in the snow of the iceberg. The direction of the storyline was more so revealed in this loading screen, or the loading screen showcasing AIM actually observing us as inhabitants of the Fortnite island to see what we would do or how we would handle such climate change, perhaps one of the biggest yet despite the introduction of Paradise Palms being the desert region, with us knowing now based off the same logo being on AIM of what was initially introduced as a map change on this flag at Flush Factory, and with it being hard to hide the iceberg behind this fog cloud, or so it once seemed anyways in the distance. It could only get so close before Season 7 arrived, in the trailer showcasing the map change we'd all anticipated being the collision of the iceberg behind the fog cloud itself that we already knew about into the Chapter 1 island in the bottom left vicinity. Despite Season 7 introducing some explorers and a brand new battle pass, of which were now on the island or a forefront of Fortnite Battle Royale itself, the more interesting thing was rather so what was beneath the ice, or what we knew to be beneath the ice anyway, slightly poking out, even revealed at the end of Season 6 because this tower mass was sticking out at the top, and it wasn't until weeks in with the slow melting of the ice we discovered not only why AIM was sent to the island, but who by, being the Ice King. Not only did the Ice King bring his castle or kingdom with him for a reason that was unknown as of now but got revealed from the ice melting furthermore, but also his mythic Infinity Blade weapon that we could pull out of the ground, kind of like the Sword in the Stone scenario, of which was perhaps one of the most frustrating or rage-worthy weapons to get killed by. With the melting process speeding up to discover more layers of the castle with what seemed like hours passing at certain points, we then discovered something perhaps even more interesting than the character that obviously was revealed, who actually noticed the melting of the ice and in the Ice Storm event tried sweeping it with a giant hologram version of himself raised, covering the entire map obviously in snow for its Christmas Day-like state that we do see once a year. Despite the Ice King obviously having some intent for doing this and wanting to create maybe the island as his full frosty kingdom, sadly it wasn't enough to contain the reason he washed up in the first place, which was to try and make sure or ensure whatever he had frozen in this chamber or prison below never escaped. As the ice of this prison not only revealed shackles, implying a prisoner was in there but with an arm sticking out, we definitely knew this had something to do with the secret skin of this season codenamed Snowfall, and upon him being revealed codenamed the prisoner breaking out of here, he then fled to the opposite end of the island to reverse what the Ice King did in terms of sweeping the map entirely full of snow, him then melting it, being almost like an opposer to the Ice King's intentions, and simultaneously planting his seed or mark on the Fortnite island, or should I say the first of that anyways, by upgrading himself into his full state by removing all the shackles of which bound him, and perhaps doing so vigorously caused earthquake-like cracks to spread across the Fortnite island, actually breaking through the fabric and shattering it of what we know to be our Battle Royale arena, of which was finally revealed then as the earthquakes got more so toward the start of Season 8, a volcano that was trying to sprout up from underneath the ground. Despite the sprouting of the volcano being the prisoner's vicinity anyways, or where he wanted to inhabit the Fortnite island, with his conflict between the Ice King shown in the trailer, this wasn't the only conflict established as pirates washed up, and this seemed to be kind of like a triangular battle between the three. This definitely left an interesting narrative for the direction of the storyline, and we definitely knew at some point this volcano would erupt, but before we got there, the secret government of the Chapter 1 island were actually planning to excavate something, however they didn't know where to dig, with several dig sites sprouting up around the map, obviously showing loot within them, and even things that had seemed to be buried such as animal bones. Eventually the excavation process was tried in the centre of our island, you know, where Kevin actually rolled to all those seasons ago, sunk in, was a floating island and then got destroyed where the cube shards then remain, and to our surprise it seemed Kevin knew this entire time or was attracted to a deeper force underneath the roots of the Fortnite island within this metal structure that was futuristic and just revealed, with this looking more advanced than anything any human could have made and then buried or gone over in terms of terrain. Players of the Fortnite island initially expected this was the doing of aliens way back then. Even the task to actually open the vault, which inevitably then resulted in the live event were very strange in terms of us bounding together as a community to deal damage to certain of these rune structures. With them all reaching the final location of Loot Lake, slotting into each of these vault sectors, eventually we were wondering what's next, what's going to be opening either these things, you know, the doors that the runes themselves actually slotted into, or this giant vault door. And to our surprise, despite the volcano starting to smoke as if a major map change was about to happen, another destruction from not a meteor hitting the island but volcanic ash or rock, the opening and or entering of the vault couldn't have happened at a more better or convenient time. The reason for this being, despite us being able to choose what came back to the Fortnite island in terms of loot pool or what we could use in terms of vehicles or anything other of the sort in these shards, even though this was our first look at the 0 point, or should I say the nexus, in what seems to be believed by some to be the butterfly dimension from Chapter 1 Season 6, we got an early look of the Singularity's mask being the Chapter 1 Season 9 secret skin also on this table, implying further importance for a character or protector of this particular glowing orb that we then found out to be the 0 point. All the way back then though, this was a fun event that kinda blindsided us to what was actually happening when we were in the vault but outside, being the volcanic eruption of which struck 3 particular named locations which had great importance, being Retail Row, Tilted Towers, and also the bottom of the iceberg at Polar Peak, which we thought served its true purpose. However, it seemed there was something even bigger afoot, literally not just in terms of the footprints that came out of this creature escaping, even further below the Polar Peak iceberg upon it washing up. With the volcanic eruption or aftermath, or even escape from it from some people not making it into the vault on the Fortnite island being shown in the Chapter 1 Season 9 cinematic trailer, Jonesy and Peely at first enjoyed their stay inside this bunker. However, as the hours turned into days, with Jonesy getting hungry and needing sustenance off of Peely, with him only being able to turn into Bunker Jonesy from being trapped inside here and him sipping his last banana smoothie, miraculously the doors were opened and time seemed to be different on the island as everything was revamped in a futuristic manner. Retail Row had been turned into Mega Mall with several air chutes around the map so we could cross it even more easily. And let's not forget what Bunker Jonesy was initially met with when leaving these bunker doors from being pushed open by a robot sentinel-like character, Neo Tilted from Once Was Tilted Towers. The interesting thing about the location of Neo Tilted, however, was the statue that resided on it, almost as if it was the face of being responsible for the revamp in this futuristic manner or saviour of the destroyed Tilted Towers location, being the character also that wore the mask that we first initially saw in the Unvaulting event prior to this season. And yes, of course, later this season we found out that this, despite being the codename Utopia skin upon being revealed, was called the Singularity. Just before or through this process of Singularity being revealed to be the secret skin, however, we started to see some funky things go down as a result of the volcanic ash or rock hitting the bottom of Polar Peak, with not only what seemed to be cracks growing bigger, but breaths seeping out as if something was alive and awoken inside. With more hotfixes, updates, and even just days passing, we then got revealed to, well, the first look of what was actually underneath here, despite the cries that we could hear this entire time from the breaths seeping out, being the eye of the Polar Peak monster that was yet to be revealed. The process of the Polar Peak monster revealing itself or even teasing its whereabouts around the Fortnite island despite escaping, leaving imprints in the ground showing its size and capability in terms of destruction from visiting again. This process after the volcano was now being used to harness power and actually build a giant mecha robot was, in my opinion and many others in the community, let me know if it's yours too in the comment section down below, the best build up or hype to an event to ever occur in Fortnite history. With more destruction being caused from the Polar Peak monster swimming around the outskirts of the island with the iceberg of Polar Peak still on its back, the islanders eventually, from it causing mass destruction or even leaving imprints of where it had got hungry and visited the Fortnite island again, eventually thought enough was enough, and so did Singularity by being the mastermind behind not only the mecha robot but controlling it in the event that did occur, being the final showdown of where the Polar Peak monster exited the water and actually tried initially to harness the power of the 0 point in the vault itself from initially trying to, break it open. And despite us being revealed for the first time to this one-eyed creature or devourer as we now know it called from it being implemented as a skin eventually in Chapter 2 in one of those seasons, at this moment the mecha robot or Singularity controlling him or it knew it was now or never in terms of stopping this beast from doing any further damage to the entire Fortnite universe instead of just taking chunks out of the island, and for that reason shot at the Polar Peak monster, destroying Polar Peak on its back in terms of the iceberg and the castle itself. And despite a vigorous battle that went back and forth in terms of who would have been the winner or who we could have predicted at the time, this eventually resulted in a desperate measure taken by the mecha robot, harnessing the 0 point from breaking through the vault that was already weakened by the Polar Peak monster's smash, and with the energy drained of this mysterious orb that we do now know to be the 0 point, smashed the Polar Peak monster out of the way, pulled the Singularity statue out of the ground, which was revealed to be a sword, and skewered between the head, eyeballs, top of the head and chin of the monster, leaving its carcass on the island to rot, saving us all from inevitable disaster of this monster going around the island and eating chunks of it, but perhaps one of the biggest mysteries was where this robot fled to upon completing its purpose of saving this particular Fortnite universe or island, as Singularity simply took it into the sky until it vanished in a speck of light. Maybe perhaps Singularity knew at the time she needed to direct the mecha robot and herself as far away from this Fortnite reality as possible, as now what was destabilizing and taken from herself in the vault was above the Earth's surface, being the 0 point. This 0 point orb destabilized all the way until the very last minute, pulsating like a living life form or organism, which then eventually exploded, destabilizing reality for good and bringing things back from our past in Chapter 1 Season X upon its start. Despite a funny trailer showing us what was between dimensions or what could be returning potentially that season, which seemed impossible, such as Kevin the Cube's floating island form, of which we literally witnessed get destroyed. By the end of this trailer anyways, we definitely got the vibe that the 0 point pulsating or exploding in the trailer initially actually shake the fabric of the Fortnite timeline in itself, bringing back, well, what was seen at the end of it, not only this giant meteor before it literally collided into Dusty Depot, creating Dusty Divot for the first time, but overall throughout the season itself, many things started to return. This of course was all made possible by the construction that now could be taken out at Dusty Depot, with the warehouses still standing to take operations or work, and as the days passed, with this becoming more revolutionized in terms of it being a workspace or somebody was working here, the Rift Beacons were formed, bringing back prior named locations not only such as Greasy Grove, but even Kevin the Cube's floating island form in itself from this interdimension where we saw initially in the Season X trailer, and within many of these locations brought back through in themselves, there were tapes from a once known character whose identity was yet to be revealed on the Fortnite Island, and who was actually constructing everything to make this ending event possible of Chapter 1, being called the Scientist. And from collecting all 6 of these tapes from all Rift Beacon locations that were made possible anyways by the Rift Beacons being made to pull these brand new things into our Fortnite realm or dimension, from combining all of them together, we were met with the following sentences, which didn't really make sense at the time, but we understand more so as the Fortnite timeline progresses forward.
What the 7 of us are attempting is very risky. I suspect they are not the only ones watching, but it must be done or we lose the bridge forever. I speculate that no one calculated the formation of the island, that interdimensional matter collisions would resolve rather than push. Now that I witnessed it firsthand, it's obvious that pinching alone made it inevitable. When I hear this again, will it help me remember? Or once looped, will I be just as muted as the others? No matter, it seems the lengthy precautions worked. The theorem was a success. You arrived outside the loop at the exact moment of expansion. This effectively paused the singularity, giving us time to create the devices needed to synchronize the junction. What I didn't factor was that the only way to trigger the device was from within the loop itself. Thus this hasty and primitive recording, and why now I find myself looped. Activate the beacon at precisely the moment this timer reaches nothing. The 0 point must be contained once more. If they are correct, it will be the end.
Notice how it almost seems hopeless for the Fortnite Island to return to its natural or stabilised state, hence why the scientist in this recording, as Donald Mustard also confirmed yes was this member of the 7, that this could be the end of the island, what was happening on it currently. With days progressing toward the end of Season X, with no more Rift Beacons being made, rather so another rocket symbolising what the Visitor launched in Chapter 1 Season 4, with the scientist programming a virus into the mechs to destroy upon impact of hitting the island, instead of them being a vehicle we could use, we knew something huge was about to go down, especially with the 0 point also still changing its state. At this point, no pun intended, we definitely knew the 0 point needed to be contained from the voice recordings. However, it wasn't until a timer appeared and ended above the rocket once it was fully completed that we understood the full extent of why this had to be the case, or how it was going to be. Not only did one rocket launch at Dusty Depot, but opened interdimensional rift portals for other members of the 7 that we now knew the scientist and the visitor belonged to come through into the Fortnite world and move this frozen in time meteor, which then they all guided down to crash into the 0 point, almost destabilizing or breaking it for good, actually ending this reality in itself, which needed to be for a reason we still kind of don't know really. What we do know, however, though, is this event was responsible for the black hole, of which we were in for 48 hours, and this was the most popular state of Fortnite according to Google Trends, as you can see the spike right in the middle. And with this 48-hour period seeming like forever, with us only being able to play this short minigame, of which I actually managed to get a 1,000,000 score on, let me know what you got in the comment section description down below if you played Fortnite back then. It then expanded Fortnite's black hole after being here or existing the only state of Fortnite for 2 whole days into Chapter 2 Season 1 of Fortnite, bringing a brand new map, characters in the Season 1 Battle Pass, and storyline to then develop in this whole new environment straight away in Season 1 of Chapter 2, despite us not having a storyline prospect or aspect or direction in Chapter 1 Season 1. Upon us being acquainted to the Chapter 2 island, it was no secret already that prior named locations from our previous chapter had actually survived the black hole despite being sucked into it, such as Pleasant Park and Risky Reels. I'm sure there's other things or places too, but those are just the main ones off the top of my head that I can remember. And throughout the seasons of this chapter, in terms of explaining the story, this will become more relevant, so I thought I'd briefly mention it there. But in terms of the storyline aspects of Chapter 2 Season 1, we initially got introduced to not only the Battle Pass skins, but even 2 variants opposing each other of these same characters, kinda like Good and Evil being initially 2 different agencies or kind of teams, Alter and Ego. It was clearly established in both trailers that this feud would be lasting throughout this entire first season of the brand new chapter, of which actually got extended longer than usual. And as we got acquainted with the brand new island, and not only that but the map changes that were being implemented more so as updates passed, obviously we then learned through these and the loading screens that Fortnite did release that these 2 factions or kind of teams opposing each other were fighting for control of the whole Fortnite island, setting up bases everywhere, from more locations sprouting up with flags attached, obviously displaying the fact that it belonged to either Alter or Ego. Of course, the storyline back then was kinda cryptic in terms of what we could tell or the direction it was going to go, with not only these 2 teams opposing each other, being different versions of the same thing but from alternate universes or dimensions, or even as we know now to be different snapshots of the same character. But one thing was entirely clear, that Chaos Agent, this character, was the mastermind behind the team called Alter, which then got revamped into Shadow alongside Ego being Ghost in Chapter 2 Season 2. With the appearance of our brand new Battle Pass characters, more specifically Midas being the controller of what was set to come to the Fortnite island in terms of its future, he not only recruited Ego, turning it into Ghost, but then of course this made sense or forced the other opposing team to Ego what once was that turned into Ghost, Alter, to then become Shadow. Despite Midas bringing a unique feel for a character and golden touch to Fortnite in itself or in this new realm, alongside continuing the work of the once was Ego faction, which is now Ghost, from trying to spread bases throughout the island or take it over in terms of displaying dominance, with this again not only further complicating but making the stakes higher of this feud between once was Alter and Ego, which is now Ghost and Shadow. The particular name location in mention that was of most interest anyways was the centre of the island that had been revamped from this log cabin into the agency of which Midas was working on something secret directly beneath, being perhaps his ultimate backup plan if everything else failed in terms of dominating the island or taking it over in terms of who actually, you know, worked under him. And from updates passing and leaks pouring out, or even the room of which Midas could be seen in within this Battle Pass tab in itself, we knew the very thing that could control the entire Fortnite island or the future of it was called the device, of which he teamed up with the engineer that we knew as back then being Jules, that was revealed in the Season 3 Battle Pass, to be helping alongside him. We learned in the device live event that they successfully were able to construct not only this device in itself, but put it to work actually destroying the centre or main agency building of which they actually operated in or under. And at this moment, players clearly knew something big was about to go down, or a finalised move was meant to be made, as Midas wasn't making too much progress in actually determining what was happening with the future of the island or his dominance over it. And with mystery still surrounding the device, considering we know the 0 point to be below the centre area of the island, such as, was this the 0 point that was emitted off of the device, or was this literally made the 0 point in this reality based off what the device actually did? With obviously this being questioned from the device serving its purpose, activating and actually interacting with all the rods that came out of these underwater chambers, of which were implemented as a map change that finally opened. The outcome of this event, or what was initially planned anyways, I'm guessing wasn't what Midas initially intended, as it not only pushed back the storm but brought one further in, being instead of the storm itself normally a giant wave that was set to flood the island, of which literally happened and we saw for the first time or knew was inevitable from the height of this water anyways, but yeah, was put into practicality in the Chapter 2 Season 3 splashdown trailer. From taking a look at Midas's demeanour on the outcome of this device live event, or what happened in it anyways, with us going to an alternate dimension and actually firstly going to this office area and meeting Agent John Jones for the first time, which we're yet to mention about more in Chapter 2 Season 5. He looked defeated on this particular raft, and yes, his story kind of came to an end here in terms of physical or main involvement by being eaten by what he literally caused in itself to wash up, being the sharks, with the flood of Chapter 2 Season 3. Before we hop into the direction of Chapter 2 Season 3, although it's kind of a blurred storyline in terms of big things happening until the end of it anyways, let's not forget that the event itself was not only big in terms of what happened with the storm, but the other effects of the device itself actually transporting us to this office area almost as if we weren't physically there, but we were recognised by Agent John Jones, of which we know
know now was set to play an even bigger part in the Fortnite storyline, and even to end off Chapter 2, which is what we're going to be mentioning after all of this leading up to Season 8. However, without spoiling all of that, we can only make sense of it when the time comes for him to be directly the forefront of the storyline in itself. So with that said, moving on to Season 3 with the flooded map. As the days passed, obviously across this entire season, the flood dwindled down, even though the grotto is still filled to this day with the water that, yeah, initially did flood these chambers that are obviously drilled into the side of this cliff, making this name location. And with the descending of this water, as it finally revealed what was underneath this giant whirlpool for the first time in one of the final updates, being Coral Castle, of which we initially anticipated to be Atlantis as an underwater name location, attached to Aquaman, making now Fortnite kind of a multiverse-based thing. And the reason we knew that this season, instead of having Deadpool as a one-off secret skin or collaboration the last season, is because they went with the same trait again of implementing a superhero from the Marvel or DC universe as this secret skin. But speaking of this multiverse, with the map changes that obviously happened with the descending of the water, believe it or not, what was more shocking was what happened toward the end of Chapter 2 Season 3 in the sky, with the appearance of a random crack in the sky, of when which put into a spectrogram the sound effects that came off it, revealed a character from the Marvel universe being called Galactus. This was no accident of Epic Games in terms of teasing the appearance of Galactus or his involvement largely being a large character, anyways, the biggest one we've ever seen in the storyline perhaps, as not only did we get other map changes such as Thor's Mjolnir hammer actually in a small crater as if he landed here and was actually now on the Fortnite island, but toward the end of Chapter 2 Season 3 we got introduced to these comics, of which told us the story of this multiverse, obviously expanding furthermore to do with a Marvel character specifically, which would then line up the Battle Pass and overall theme for Season 4, with the fact that Galactus actually had his homeworld destroyed by something called the Black Winter and needed to come to the Fortnite island or other worlds anyways and devour them, meaning not only was he lucky to escape with his own life, but now had nowhere really to go or no initial purpose other than wanting to restore, well, the homeworld he did come from. At this time, from Galactus being a free roaming agent from his homeworld not existing anymore or being taken up by the Black Winter, this eventually caused him to crash land or surprisingly land in Asgard, where Thor obviously was just recently crowned king, and in doing so informed Thor of the fact that he needed to devour 5 very special planets or worlds in order to save his own from the Black Winter that obviously actually initially, got rid of it in the first place. And not only was this important to save the homeworld of Galactus in itself, but it was said that these worlds needed to be devoured in order to save this from spreading across all reality, what happened with the Black Winter. From what seems to be portrayed in these comics of Thor and Galactus being allies anyways, and Thor even guiding him around what worlds to devour in themselves through space and time or in the universe of which we now know to be involved in Fortnite in this multiverse, something interesting happened eventually of where they stumbled across this crack in space and time, as we would know as Fortnite players being a rift, and let's just say this was nothing like Galactus had seen before, so clearly got his attention in terms of what resided on the other end of that in terms of a reality or world to then devour, as his intuition obviously indicated that there was so much power to consume, perhaps enough to make up for the 5 worlds that he would have then had to discover otherwise. From Thor's intuition, knowing that this wasn't a good idea for the inhabitants of whatever was on the other side in whatever universe or world it was or led to, this is why Thor's Mjolnir hammer appeared toward the end of Chapter 2 Season 3, as this was symbolic of him arriving to try and warn us as the Battle Royale inhabitants of the island that something was coming to consume and destroy the reality that we know as Fortnite players. Despite the superpowers of which Thor wields alongside his hammer Mjolnir that only he can pick up from being worthy, however, from him arriving, portrayed in the comics and talking to many Fortnite characters or even battling it out with them in trying to warn them but them not really believing him, eventually clearly his powers weren't enough to withstand, well, what happens in our Fortnite reality itself being a loop that resets every 21 or 22 minutes, obviously meaning then after this time he forgot why he was there initially. This loss in memory, however, was only until Galactus actually appeared in the distance, of which all Fortnite players pointed out to him, and then he could clearly see, not only in terms of him physically in the distance of the sky rapidly approaching the Fortnite island, but his purpose of why he visited this realm or reality or universe initially. From Thor knowing he needed to act fast and drastic, he summoned Lady Sif, of which was the daughter of Asgard, to actually help him with this problem, of which resulted her summoning the power of the Bifrost to then actually transport several Marvel superheroes or characters into the Fortnite reality to fend off Galactus or team up in doing so eventually when he arrives. And with the arrival of all the Battle Pass Marvel characters in the Fortnite universe, it was only a matter of time before they could all see the fast approach of Galactus too, and then know the fact that this reality wasn't safe, which caused Tony Stark, in terms of implemented technology, to transport Stark Industries, of which he could then work on his technological developments into the Fortnite world. This of course was done by Tony Stark for the best preparation or chance in terms of technology they would need for the inevitable arrival of Galactus, of which did actually happen, and upon doing so all of of our Fortnite characters not only on the island, but the superheroes that now were on it too, were fully equipped with jetpacks and the technology to actually defeat Galactus in the Devourer of Worlds live event upon him initially arriving, and not only destroying the helicarrier with a single swipe, but trying to consume the 0 point that we now discovered was in the centre of the island the whole time, which Tony Stark initially knew about and anticipated Galactus to initially try and consume due to his genius, and actually baited him out to defeat him with this intent that Galactus initially had. From Galactus trying to consume the 0 point, it put us into an in-between like state of which we saw in the Butterfly event of Chapter 1 Season 6, and in doing so the developments that they made with the battle buses with this energy on it that could actually defeat Galactus, it duplicated these billions of times to defend off not only what Galactus was trying to destroy us with, but him overall himself by all of them crashing into him and then overboarding him with the energy of which was on board them, which then caused another rift to open in space and time, of which initially got Thor and Galactus here at the same time or around the same time in the first place, but thankfully this time it saved our reality by transporting Galactus to another, and despite this being victorious and even sending us into downtime straight away afterwards, we initially got teased to the problem further afoot, with Agent John Jones being the forefront now of the storyline, and this happened to be all revolving around the fact that the 0 point was exposed and destabilising fast above the Fortnite universe or this world's surface. The reason I say this world is because we know from past experience, or last time this happened in the final showdown in Season X and even after that, the 0 point above and exposed to the surface of the Fortnite world is never a good idea due to what happens when it destabilises, explodes, and even mixes in terms of other realities together, and that's exactly what Agent John Jones was sent by Dr. Sloan to the Fortnite Island to do, contain the 0 point before anything further drastic happens, despite us thinking at this time Dr. Sloan was one of the good guys or had the best interest at heart for the Fortnite reality in itself and wanting the containment furthermore of the 0 point, and not only sending Agent John Jones to do so, but the IO or Imagine Order being another agency in the background that were silently working on trying to actually treat this issue. Agent John Jones, upon him arriving, took it upon himself to summon many bounty hunters to wreak havoc across this particular reality, or at least try to find the culprits for the issue of which had erased, as they hadn't really known why this has happened this whole time. And despite this being the case, even though he had the looper or the rift gun to do his own research of not only even pulling furthermore characters from other universes of either games or franchises into Fortnite, most specifically Predator being the secret unlockable skin of Chapter 2 Season 5 in itself, from spending so much time on the island and with the 0 point further destabilising to a worrying state of which he then deemed it couldn't be saved, from trying to get back in touch with Dr. Sloan or even re-access files that he would have had access to initially, he discovered that everything was completely different, or that the motives of Dr. Sloan this entire time weren't as she initially exclaimed, which then led him to betray her and go rogue in the Zero Crisis finale to then try and contain the 0 point or sort out the issue from havoc that was shown in the Zero Crisis finale between, well, lots of characters actually opposing each other or eliminating each other. And now that Dr. Sloan was alerted of the fact that Agent John Jones had gone rogue, and not only that, but he was trying to contact members of the Seven, of which she initially said to not draw the attention of, this caused him to throw his looper into the 0 point and create a drastic opportunity for change in terms of the destabilisation of the 0 point furthermore, but to actually save this reality by the Foundation crashing down in a meteor that was more advanced than what we saw with the Visitor initially in this capsule or pod, but this time with a steady arrival on the Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 5 island once these changes were made. Of course, the Foundation wasn't impressed with what they were trying to achieve with the 0 point or what they were doing with this Fortnite reality in particular anyways, as they seem to know greater things that are set in motion or to happen that will have a knock-on effect in the other dimension or universes of Fortnite that the Seven are actually from that's yet to be revealed. And with this stigma or fight being clearly established in them literally hitting each other initially, Agent John Jones actually makes a promise to the Foundation of which he can't decline, saying he'll get him Jenna and the sisters, of which we're yet to know who these are, in exchange for sorting out whatever's going on with the 0 point in the sky, which we actually got to tackle with him and Agent John Jones in the Zero Crisis event once loading up Chapter 2 Season 6, which of course last but not least forced the Foundation to sacrifice himself by trapping the 0 point inside what seemed to be this chromium structure called the Spire in the centre of the island, which brought a primal age with it. The reason this primal age came to be across the island is because the pulse that was set off by the 0 point upon being contained anyways or shut off from reality in itself actually contained inside the chromium structure wiped out any advanced technology, and because of that seemed to be, well, us going back to our primal or caveman-like roots with the technology or weapons or even things that we could use also correlating to this on the Fortnite Island during this time. Although the story's kind of blurred for Chapter 2 Season 6 in terms of what exactly was the main factor affecting it moving forward into Season 7, an interesting interesting thing pointing toward this and our understanding of the Fortnite loop in itself was the Batman 0 Point comics of which released during this season going on. This of course was a DC collaboration and comic book versions of like the DC characters appearing in Fortnite such as Batman Zero, Armored Batman Zero and such, and alongside this giving us furthermore insight to the Fortnite loop and this multiverse now that was obviously established between not only one comic book universe being Marvel but two being DC, and even furthermore franchises of which were already going on being brought into the Fortnite world or were set to be. Simultaneously there seemed to be a guardian of the Spire who knew more about it or about its energy and how it could be harnessed, being Raz that not only was here as a boss at the end days of Season 6, but was able to somehow harness its energy, codenamed Cube Ninja in the files, which obviously correlated to our belief that Kevin the Cube would return, not only based off the rune imprints, of which can directly be seen on Kevin, which were identical to what matched his skin as these imprint kind of scars too, which again did get players thinking that Kevin the Cube would be returning, but we didn't expect it to arrive in the manner that it did, not only next season at the end of it, or should I say Season 8 after Season 7 ended, but the arrival of aliens that was slowly teased toward the end of Chapter 2 Season 6 and then literally made an appearance physically in the sky all over the place in Chapter 2 Season 7. The end days of Season 6 of Chapter 2 were really weird, like not only did we get the teasers of the posters that aliens would be coming, but these small Easter eggs of being abducted and then spat out to another area of the Fortnite Island too by some technology that not only wasn't developed before the Primal Age swept over, but was way more advanced than ever, which then was confirmed by the giant mothership bigger than the island that flew over it in the Chapter 2 Season 7 trailer, not only abducting and destroying the chromium structure of the Spire but the 0.2, which then resulted in the Foundation being cast out to a reality in some sort of ocean that we didn't know about, whether it was on the outskirts of this island or another, and with things getting serious now to the point that Dr. Sloan needed to make an appearance in the Fortnite reality in herself, us being revealed to her for the first time in the Chapter 2 Season 7 Battle Pass trailer. Even though the inhabitants of the Fortnite Island were welcoming the aliens, it seemed that their only intention was not only of taking it over, but making this reality then theirs. Not only did we have several UFOs flying around in the sky, of which were hostile to Fortnite players across this entire season, manned by NPC aliens holding out of this world weapons, and with us being abducted into their mothership, of which clearly displayed that they were here to do research on us as the Fortnite Battle Royale inhabitants, with name locations floating in there. Because of Dr. Sloan initially opposing this in advance, she was able to devise a secret plan and strategy or base of which they could counterattack these aliens from abducting furthermore locations underneath Corny Complex, of where initially was set out to be not only this secret IO base now, but then build bombs of which would be hidden underneath the Earth's crust of Corny Complex before this name location was abducted, such as what happened with Slurpy Swamp and also Coral Castle. And with the mothership finally coming around to Corny Complex to abduct, of which Dr. Sloan anticipated, we were finally ready, as we thought at this time we were on the same side as Dr. Sloan to enter the mothership and actually detonate these bombs, expecting also a safe escape, which we couldn't have been more wrong about. Not only did Dr. Sloan underestimate what we were against in terms of things inside the mothership or the complexities of it, but most importantly what the mothership was holding in terms of power on it, being Kevin the Cube, not only one, but other cubes from all of the other Fortnite realities that had been collected by the mothership that actually had taken them over. Because of this, a change in heart was made by her so that we couldn't return and had to destroy the mothership and everything in it, considering Kevin was obviously fed by her for reasons we didn't know at the time, but now we do with the introduction of the Cube Queen. But with us obviously feeling betrayed as Fortnite players, we could use the power of Kevin to our advantage to actually get to a point of where we wouldn't be directly affected by the blast of these bombs in the mothership, revealing not only all of the other cubes but then causing them once the mothership had exploded and we could safely fly down to the Fortnite Island, or should I say as a result of the mothership being exploded, alongside the cubes imprinting their way down here too for this cube themed Season 8. With the arrival of Season 8 and all of these different cubes crashing down onto the Fortnite Island, not the millions we saw in the mothership hive that had been collected over time, but more than we'd ever seen on one Fortnite Battle Royale island before, we didn't think much of these at first, despite the fact there were several mothership parts scattered throughout the island as it was bigger than it and it had now crashed in the outskirts ocean from being exploded. With these cubes not only starting to multiply or breed and then head to the centre of the island, players started to then speculate what Dr. Sloan was so afraid of, with these cubes actually being entered into a Fortnite reality once more. As time passed with the movement of these cubes, not only the purple ones reaching the centre of the island, but first initially was this golden one being the Queen Cube, we knew that these were going to be involved in some sort of map change from data miners finding some something called Cube Town codename in the files, which we then knew to be the Convergence area, of which when Fortnitemares landed, the Halloween event for 2021, not only revealed this silhouette of the secret character in the Battle Pass trailer for the first time, being the Cube Queen, but this also put her in a spherical chamber in-game as we then await for the live event to end off Season 8 to happen based off what she's trying to develop or build up herself in terms of intention of destroying this entire reality that she did initially mention to be the case, that nothing will remain in the Chapter 2 Season 8 Battle Pass trailer when talking, and with the progression of the updates passing in Season 8, we lead up until the most present time as of now, where not only has this Convergence area gone through 3 full stage of developments before this pyramid area has been implemented, but now the Queen Cube has turned into an octahedron, leading up to the tip of the pyramid anyways, directly below the Cube Queen, and from this being the final update 18.40 of Chapter 2 Season 8, the files have revealed that this will be used in the transition to not only what's next for Fortnite in terms of a season, but a chapter, being Chapter 3 starting December 7th, 2021, as we're going to be going into downtime directly after this event occurs with the Cube Queen or whatever's going to be happening on December 5th, 2021. And based off the loading screen of which has been leaked right now, being the Chapter 2 finale, as you can see right here, we can clearly see that there's going to be some sort of energy used from this pyramid and the spherical chamber of the Cube Queen obviously charging inside. And let's just say as we're transitioning now, or it's been confirmed we're going into a new chapter, just like the transition to Chapter 2, it seems we're going to be getting a brand new complete revamped map from not only data miners finding this literally in its early stages, as you can see right here, codename Artemis, which obviously has a codename for the others too, Apollo being Chapter 1, Athena being Chapter 2, and then Artemis being Chapter 3, but this was also mentioned a while back on everything that's come true on here off this list before Chapter 2 Season 8 release by an inside source. And let's just say as we await the finale to happen at the time of me recording this video of Chapter 2 leading into Chapter 3, it's definitely going to involve all sides of which we've been predominantly introduced to as important parts of this chapter, being Agent John Jones and the Foundation teaming up now as one side, Dr. Sloan opposing them in terms of her intentions and finally opening this redacted bunker to make the final IO base before the end of this chapter, and let's not forget the Cube Queen, of which just directly wants to destroy this reality and isn't afraid to admit it. And with that explaining the entire Fortnite storyline, not only where we're up until now or where we're going to go, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and if you want to keep referring back to any of the points at all or any section of the timeline, make sure to slap a like in it down below. It would also be greatly appreciated if you could use code FM1 in the item shop to directly support me as a creator, and make sure to hit the big red button to subscribe to the channel with all notifications turned on once doing so you can get notified as soon as I upload brand new videos. But speaking of other videos, make sure to click or interact with anything on screen right now, I don't mind, but most importantly, hopefully I can catch you, yes you the individual still watching right now, I can see you, but hopefully in the very next video I do post on the channel.